It's another Thunder Thursday on News OK Live. I'm Mike Sherman, sports editor of the Oklahoman, here with our Thunder coverage team. Joining me from his house here in Oklahoma City, Thunder writer Anthony Slater. Traveling.
I'm in the panic room.
You're in the panic room, right across the hallway. Traveling with the team last night, and in some location I am not aware of at this very moment, Thunder beat writer Darnell Mayberry.
I'm in Dallas.
He's in Dallas. And soon to join us, also from Dallas, where he'll be covering the OU-Texas game this weekend, will be our columnist Barry Trammell. Thunder Thursdays, of course, are brought to you by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that drive down I-40, save yourself some time and money. Guys, we finally have a game. Something besides an inter-squad scrimmage to talk about. Something besides a press conference. There was a real live exhibition game, and Darnell, you were there. And not only were you there, but it was a total blackout. None of us saw it live, only you. So what's worth remembering about this game in Denver?
You know, I think I tried to write about it today. Steven Adams and Mitch McGary, the front court of the future. However it comes about, however it takes shape, those two guys were awfully impressive. I thought they really were the best performers for the Thunder. Steven Adams had a team-high 15 points, 7 rebounds, all of them coming in the first half. He was credited for 2 blocks, but I think they shortchanged him on him. I think he had 3 in the first half alone, maybe even the first quarter. So, Mitch McGary, 14 points, looked great putting the ball on the floor, high-low action with Steven Adams, passing, driving it, and dishing it to Steven Adams, who caught it cleanly and finished. I mean, they were doing things that we really haven't seen the big men for Oklahoma City do since the team moved here and became the Thunder. So, I was really impressed with what I saw out of Steven Adams and Mitch McGary.
Anthony, not only was it were those two in full display, and I hate to bring up the James Harden trade, but aren't those two guys the two big products of that trade?
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy Lamb's supposed to be another one. Obviously, he went 1 of 14 last night, so that's another part of that trade you have to look at. But, yeah, I mean, you got the first-round pick, the 12th overall pick to get Adams, and then the Dallas pick, which turned into Mitch McGary. And they both definitely do look like front-court players of the future. I think Darnell referred to them as the Thunder front court of the future. I mean, Serge Ibaka is still obviously, penciled in as a starter for a long time. But, I mean, those two guys, you had to like what you saw last night. You had to like what you see in the Summer League from Adams last year. Nothing either of them have shown us should tame expectations.
Also, guys, with Nick Collison out, with Kendrick Perkins out, are these two guys conceivably going to be the story of the preseason?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the whole front court was out last night besides basically these two, and it really is an issue. I think these are the two guys you want to play as much as you can in the preseason. And to be honest, from what I've seen in McGary, I mean, we all think Adams should and probably will start and get 25 minutes. From what I saw in McGary, it might not be a bad idea early in the season, especially with Collison getting nicked up. Ibaka's been getting nicked up lately. Get Mitch McGary some run, in the regular season in some real games, because the potential he's showing, I mean, this guy, I think, can be a rotation player, like Adams did last year, just kind of force his way into the rotation.
Darnell, I'll let you tap the brakes on Anthony's euphoria over Steven Adams. He fouled out, or he had 21 minutes and how many fouls?
6.
Yes. So let's tap the brakes just a little bit on Steven Adams and talk about that propensity to foul and how you see that improving, projecting, what have you.
Well, funny story. Steven Adams had, we always talk about his body art. He was tattooed right about in this area right here, just real red, it looked like a long slash that was in his chest. I asked him what happened. He said, I don't know. He said, when did it happen? He said, when that guy flopped. So clearly Steven Adams doesn't think that he's fouling as many times as the referees are calling him for fouls. I think he's just going out there and trying to be aggressive. But there's some times when he's late on rotations, late in pick and roll coverage, and it gets exposed. And, he gets caught flat-footed. He gets caught watching. And I think those lead to a lot of his fouls. And I know the other thing is one of the biggest issues is the free throw shooting. He's got to be able to nail down some free throws, and if he doesn't, he could become a liability on the floor. So he's got to work on that.
Okay, Anthony. Go ahead.
I was going to say the thing last night was that, he's going to have his fouls. He's a big guy that plays physically. He's going to have his fair share of fouls. The ones that I don't like are the silly ones. Yesterday he had 3 fouls late in the first half, and with like 1 second left, he kind of sloppily fouls Aaron Aflalo. 1 second left in the first half, he sloppily fouls Aaron Aflalo, on a layup. And then suddenly he's going into the second half with 4 fouls. Fouls early in the second half, comes back, and then fouls again. He basically didn't play in the second half because of foul trouble. We're talking about a guy that went for 15 and 7 in the first half. You're going to want a guy like that in the second half. I think I wrote about it. I mean, that's what really kept him from having a monster night, a 2010 type night.
You know what? Let me just add this. That foul that Anthony's talking about, in the context of the flow of the game, it wasn't a great foul, like Slater said. It gave him his 4th foul going into the second half. He picked up a quick 5th one less than 2 minutes into the third quarter. That forced him to sit. But the one thing that I really watch these preseason games and try to see and pick up on is who's going to go out there and do the right things. They always talk about building good habits. Steven Adams did his best to hustle back and not give up a layup. And I really appreciated, admired, respected that hustle that he showed in that situation, because he didn't just let Aaron Aflalo get a free lane to the rim. He hustled back and tried to get a stop. Wasn't a good foul in that situation, but I did appreciate the hustle.
He's got to know he has 3 fouls. I mean, going into the second half, that would be the issue I'd have with it.
Barry Trammell's joining us. Barry, we're talking about Steven Adams. Our discussion has led us to the foul problem, foul shooting and foul propensity. I don't see the NBA changing the rules and allowing more fouls. Anthony says all that stayed away from him in a big game last night was foul trouble, 6 fouls. They're not changing the rules, and he fouls a lot. Do they know something that we're just finding out, that this is going to be maybe a stumbling block to him being in the starting lineup?
I don't know if it's a stumbling block. The good news about somebody like Adams and the fouls is he's not a guy I think is going to play 35 minutes a game anyway, whether he starts or not. So I don't think the lack of the foul trouble itself is what's going to get him. I think it's the fouling, the too much fouling, putting guys on the line. That could be the only situation I see. But when you're sort of when you're a role player, when you're going to play 20 minutes a game, 24 minutes a game, I don't think foul trouble in and of itself is a big problem, because the Thunder will play small sometimes. They've still got Perk, whatever the case may be. It's not a guy they're going to rely on. If Russell Westbrook is foul prone, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, as Barry mentioned, you saw it last night. This team's really developing a lot of depth in the front court. If Adams is in foul trouble and it's not a good matchup for Perk, hey, you could throw McGarry out there with Serge Ibaka. That'd be a great front line for stretches of the game, I think.
How about free throw shooting? This guy makes Dwight Howard look like Rick Barry, Barry.
That's bold.
That's the problem. You got to make a decent amount of your foul shots. That's very serious. Problem, and for him to go 1 for 5, and already said that's a serious problem. He's got to be better than that. He's a skilled guy. He knows what he's doing. There's no reason why he's not shooting at least 60%.
Let's talk about the other big guy, Darnell, Mitch McGarry, who is a bit of a crush for you in all truthfulness, going back to his days for the Wolver Dogs. But he's showing stuff on the court. Do you think, I think we spent a little time debating which side of Reno he'd spend more time playing on this year. Is that argument now moot? Do we think he's going to be part of the Thunder rotation?
I still don't see any way that he's definitely not going to jump past Serge Ibaka. I still don't see a way that he gets past Nick Collison on the depth chart. Nick Collison still does a ton of great things for this team. He knows where to be. He knows how to play. He's trustworthy. The coaches can rely on Nick Collison. Scott Brooks, the only time he seems to say a negative word about someone is when it's a rookie who he's trying to temper expectations on. He did it last night with Mitch McGarry. I asked him about his impressions of Mitch. He said he did a lot of great things offensively. There was a caveat. He said defensively he's got to be able to be in better spots. He's got to be able to get to his spot quicker so that he can't get abused by point guards. So, I think already you're seeing the coaching staff really kind of point out what he's not doing so well. And I think those reasons are some of the reasons why he's not going to be trusted as much as guys like Nick Collison, maybe even Perry Jones, who's going into his third year. So there's just a lot of competition. I can't see him cracking the rotation this year.
I see him. You mentioned Perry Jones. I see him like that. Remember the minutes Perry Jones got last year? They were sporadic, but he was in and out of the rotation. I think he's going to hop Perry Jones. I just think he's going to provide more to this team. So the minutes that Perry Jones got last year, I think, are the minutes Mitch McGary's going to get this year.
Barry, where do you see McGary fitting in?
I don't think Barry's with us.
Oh, we lost Barry? Okay, well, guys, that Perry Jones thing, remember, Perry Jones was the guy they threw out there to guard LeBron James. Perry Jones, in some ways, is more versatile than Mitch McGary. You don't see, he's not going to have Mitch McGary out there guarding a small forward on the floor, or definitely not a shooting guard. So he really is, it seems to be, the power forward center deal. And it seems like we have chronically underestimated how the Thunder can fit these kind of guys in. I know for sure that one member of our panel thought Serge Ibaka would spend the whole season in Tulsa. I also know that some of us thought Steven Adams would be a project. I'm not naming any names.
Not me.
Are we wrong? Could we be wrong? Could Mitch McGary play 10 minutes a night?
I mean, he could, but the thing that we haven't talked about is small ball. Remember, this team has got a lot of athleticism, a lot of length, a lot of explosiveness. They like to get up and down the floor, and at times that means going small. So if the Thunder goes small, then you're going from 4 or 5 bigs down to 1 or 2. So, I just don't see any way that between the people he has in front of him, Serge Ibaka, Kendrick Perkins, Steven Adams, Nick Collison, maybe Perry Jones, maybe, that's a big maybe. And then the style of play, it's just a lot for Mitch McGary to overcome. No one would love to see him in there more than me, trust me. But I just don't see any way, given those two things, that it's going to happen, especially early in the season.
To me, this is a similar debate. Last year at this time, and I know it's early now, but last year at this time, I mean, you guys were saying, I just don't see any way Steven Adams, I can't see him cracking the rotation. If you play yourself into it, they're going to have to play you. Scott Brooks was forced to put Steven Adams in a lot last year because he played well when he came in. If Mitch McGary keeps playing like this, he's going to force his way into the rotation.
And also, is it not possible that if you go small, that Mitch McGary's skill set could sort of fuel that small ball, fuel that, more ball movement, more energy on both ends?
Yeah, but if you go small, though, I mean, if you're saying that he's going to be your lone big, Kevin Durant at the 4, essentially, then you're playing Mitch McGary now over Serge Ibaka, which I think all of us would agree that's not going to happen probably at any point this season, or Steven Adams, which Steven Adams is just as good, if not better, than Mitch McGary. So, and then you can't forget a guy like Nick Collison. So those 3 guys, he would have to play over as the lone big, and I just don't see that.
I think there's spurts where you see that. He passes better than – Collison's a great passer, but I think McGary on the move, you saw him twice last night dishing to Adams, basically dribbling by Kenneth Reed, an all-star, and bring the defense dishing it. I think he fits perfectly in a small ball type lineup.
Who you gonna guard? Who you gonna guard if he's your lone big? He's not so much of a rim. He's not the same rim protector as Serge Ibaka. He doesn't know where to be like Nick Collison, and he doesn't eat up space and just lean on guys like Steven Adams at this point. I think he has the potential to do that before anything else. But you're going to lose a lot defensively, I think, if you go to that. And you're already struggling defensively when you go to small ball lineups anyway. It's harder to rebound, harder to get stops. It's more of an offensive weapon or tool. I just don't see them guarding effectively with Mitch in there.
I think that just depends on the team. You're playing an 82-game season. Yeah, if you're playing Memphis, you're probably not going to go small and have, McGary and Durant guarding Gasol and Randolph. But you're playing, bad teams or teams that don't have offensive type big men. You can throw Mitch McGary on, 12 starting centers in the league, and they're still not going to dump it down to some of them.
That's a good point. And also, what if he plays? If you achieve the effect of playing small with him at the power forward, guy who can pull his man away,
yeah,
guy who can pass the ball. I think you could play a big lineup. The lineup you saw last night, Darnell, with Steven Adams and Mitch McGary in the line at the same time, could have the effect of small ball.
Yeah, the way Mitch McGary was hitting that 19-footer last night. I mean, I know you didn't get to see it, Mike, but I mean, Reggie Jackson was working at the baseline and just kind of throwing behind the back bounce passes to McGary. He'd catch him, haul him in, fire away, and I mean, he was hitting them like all net, and the guy looked smooth. So he could become sort of that stretch four type, maybe not out to the three-point line, but sort of like Serge Ibaka.
Guys, go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say, he looked real confident, especially on that right wing. I was surprised at how fluid those shots were. And, I mean, I think that'd be a deadly offensive lineup if you think, maybe at some points of the game you go Westbrook, Jackson, Durant, Baca, and McGary. I mean, that's kind of a small ball type lineup. That's a lot of offense out there.
It's a lot of offense. It's a lot of change, too, for a championship contending team to stir in. Guys, here we talk about Steven Adams moving into a starting lineup. The possibility of Mitch McGary moving into the rotation. And we haven't even mentioned the Andre Robertson flip that you guys did in Choctaw over the weekend. Let's start there. What happened to you guys and Andre Robertson in Choctaw?
I mean, in my opinion, he just killed Jeremy Lamb. And those are the two guys that we've really been debating because I think, I've talked about maybe having Reggie Jackson in the starting lineup, but, I think they're settled on him as the sixth man. So it was really between Lamb and Robertson, and Robertson completely outplayed Lamb in Choctaw. And even though Robertson didn't play that well last night, he still completely outplayed Jeremy Lamb, who went 1 of 14. He just looks like a better fit in the starting lineup. He's, great defender. He's not going to take shots you don't want him to take. And the three looked at least a little bit improved. At least he's willing to take it and possibly make it. I think it's become an easy decision for Scott Brooks.
Darnell, did that carry over to what you saw last night?
Yeah, he didn't have the best night offensively or defensively in Denver last night, but it's his assertiveness, his aggressiveness that really stood out. The way he can impact games without putting the ball in the hole or really shooting it well from outside, that is what leaves an impression on you. And that, to me, is what separated him from Jeremy Lamb. If Jeremy's shot's not going well, he's basically useless on the floor at that time. He's not creating havoc defensively. He's not making his teammates better with the ball in his hands. So, he can rebound a little bit. He had some impressive ones last night. But Andre Robertson is giving you much more impactful minutes than Jeremy Lamb, even though he's not a scorer. So that, to me, is what separates the two. And I just think Andre does things at a level that, you might need him on the floor to do those little things, especially, if you got Reggie being inconsistent defensively. Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant generally don't guard the other team's best players if they're wings. So Andre Robertson could have a lot of use on this team.
Those of us in Oklahoma City are maybe not as resourceful as others. We're left to digest the painted pictures that Matt Pinto was leaving for us on the radio last night, and there was one little stretch there where it was offensive rebound tip, another offensive rebound by Andre Robertson. Darnell, is that what you saw last night? Because the way Matt described it, sort of just in passing, seemed like the very thing that this team maybe has lacked in the past on the offensive glass.
Yeah, he was impressive. I think the sequence that you're describing from Matt Pinto was one where he was basically playing volleyball at the rim with one of the Nuggets' big fellas. It was either Mozgov or the rookie that they got in. I don't even know his name. But the guy is like a 7-footer, and Andre Robertson at 6'7" was going up there and really just keeping the ball alive at the rim. Almost tipped it in a few times. He probably got 3 or 4 touches on those tips alone. And I don't know how he was only credited for 7 rebounds, but things like that. There was a jump ball where Andre Robertson at 6'7" out-jumped another 7-foot center for the Nuggets. But before the other guy was even off the floor, Andre was already at the peak of the ball, getting his paws on it. So things like that with his length and athleticism, I think he could be a really good solution. Solution might be a strong word, but I think he could be a really serviceable player at the 2 guard spot.
Okay, guys, I'm cribbing off a little bit what you've talked about on the Thunder Buddies podcast. You can download it from iTunes. You can watch it on newsok.com or listen to it on newsok.com. And we're talking now about the blackout, the preseason blackout of Thunder preseason games, and really in many, many markets. Guys, we get to see Samaje Christon play in the Summer League, but we can't watch Russell Westbrook in Denver in the preseason. Darnell, explain that to me.
Yeah, I don't have an explanation just yet. I'm working on it, trying to go through the people with the Thunder and get some answers. But I've been told in the past that financially it's not worth their while. I vaguely remember being told that years ago, because this is nothing new. I mean, the Thunder has never broadcasted all 7 preseason games. They historically only broadcast one. So, but the better the team becomes, the more star power you're getting on the team. It's not just Kevin Durant. It's also Russell Westbrook, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson's blossoming. There's a lot of intrigue, and there's just no real answer right now out there as to why these games aren't being televised.
Guys, let's switch to the power forward position. A little intrigue, a little news out in Denver. The Nuggets announced a long-term deal with Kenneth Faried. Guys, I look at that deal that Faried just signed, and I think of the deal that Serge Ibaka signed a couple years ago, and I just wonder where the value is. What's your take on that comparison, Anthony?
What exactly was Faried's money?
Faried, $50 million for 4 years. Is that right, Darnell?
Yeah, the numbers have been kind of floated out there, I think inaccurately at times, but I think that's the last number that I heard.
So he's going to get around 12-ish million. He's going to get really, if it's 4 for 50, that's about what Serge is getting.
Yep, just about.
I mean, it makes Ibaka's deal look even better. I mean, we've talked about how it's one of the best bargains in the league. It doesn't escalate over time. And I think, and I don't think this is an unpopular opinion, I think he's better than Kenneth Faried. I think he does more for a team defensively. That's a pretty good contract, though. I like Kenneth Faried as a player. But, I mean, Ibaka's contracts looked, questionable at the time to some people, but now I don't think there's anyone across the NBA that can argue a defensive player of the year, maybe favorite, a possible all-star, what he did in the playoffs last year, and, he's getting $12 million, third most on the team. It's just a great deal.
Darnell, the Nuggets are euphoric over the way Faried played the second half of the year. I guess he averaged a double-double, 18 and 10 or something the last couple months. Is he a guy that you can see sort of rivaling Serge Ibaka? He's not the defensive presence Ibaka is, but he seems to be a heck of an energy guy in addition to his offensive skills.
Yeah, I'm not as high on Kenneth Faried as Anthony appears to be, but I do like him as a player. I don't like him $50 million. I don't like him that much. He doesn't play great defense. You can't rely on him to score. With his back to the basket, he's becoming a better mid-range shooter, but he's not a reliable shooter either. So he's really just, you don't pay $50 million for hustle, in my opinion. You can go out there and get that in Glenn Davis or someone like that for $3 million.
I love Big Baby, but he's nothing near Kenneth Faried.
I'm not saying he's the same player. I'm saying if I could save $9 million, I'd save $9 million and use that money and use those resources elsewhere.
Guys, let's go on the court for one more question, and then off the court and off the sport for the final question. Sebastian Telfair showed up in the Oklahoma City Thunder uniform last night, played pretty well. Anthony, you made a point of including him in one of your 5 points. Darnell, is he closer to Derek Fisher or Royal Ivey?
That's a tough comparison. He was
neither.
he was better than both of them last night. Not the shooter that Fisher is, and a much better floor leader or general than Royal Ivey. So, and he's more athletic than both of them, probably combined. So, I was surprised to see that he still had bursts of speed, explosiveness. He was keeping up with Ty Lawson defensively, staying in front of him as best that anyone can do in this league. And then when Eric Green, who was actually lighting up Reggie Jackson there in the third quarter for a stretch, Sebastian Telfair actually came in and slowed him down a little bit. So the speed that Sebastian showed, he's getting older. He's got things on his legs. I joked to someone sitting next to me last night. He looks like me trying to play out there. He had some tape on his wrist and thumb. He had a headband covering up his receding hairline, and he had some things on his legs that look like he's got old knees. So I'm like, dude, it might be time. Those are the signals. But he came out and played his butt off, and I really liked what I saw. I was impressed with his poise, his patience, and he looks like a player who's going to make few mistakes while leading the team and orchestrating the offense. I really liked what I saw.
Anthony, I wondered, it sounded like we thought maybe he was just a break glass in case of emergency point guard. Could he be more?
I still don't think he's more because I agree with what Darnell said. Like you mentioned, I put him in my observations. But the problem is what he does well, which is get to the rim, play make for others. I mean, it's what the Thunder's two, one superstar point guard and one who thinks he's a star. That's what they do best too, is get to the rim, score, finish. They're going to play a majority all the minutes. They should probably, Reggie probably wants more minutes than he's going to get. So I think he's breaking case of emergency. I think if Jackson goes down with an ankle sprain for 2 weeks or Westbrook has a knee issue, I think he could play then, and I think he could do an average job in that scenario, and I think he will make this team for sure, but I don't think he's going to be in the rotation if everyone's healthy.
Okay, guys, finally, let's end with this weekend. You're going to Dallas for the Mavericks series. It's drivable, Anthony, so you're going to pop down there, cover the game, and then what are you going to do?
Oh, shoot! I mean, it's a late night tip. We'll probably get done working around midnight, 1 a.m. maybe in Dallas. So, sleep real quick, get up, and it's an 11 a.m. kick for the Red River game at the Cotton Bowl. And neither me or Darnell has been to a Red River game, so we're going to shoot over there, watch that game real quick, kind of soak in the atmosphere. I know that's a big sporting event this weekend in this state.
Darnell, are you going to go on the Midway? Are you going to ride any rides? Try to win a big stuffed animal for Parker. Shop for new cars. Check out some hot tubs. I'm just trying to get you into the mood of what people do before and after the OU Texas game.
Yeah, I don't know. If you got any ideas, send them my way. Like Slater said, we've never been there before, so I'm not really sure what to expect, except for an OU head kicking because Texas is not that good.
That's what we expected last year, though, right?
It is what we expected.
Good point.
Our good friend Barry Trammell picks Texas to win, operating only under the contractual obligation that he does, which he says, I always pick last year's winner to win again.
Do you think he really believes Texas is going to win?
I don't know. I think he picked TCU last week, so maybe he's just on a roll. Bob Stoops has lost 4 straight games in the state of Texas. I don't know if that tells us anything, but there you go. Finally, though, here's my advice to you on OU Texas week. I know you got a late night. Make it an early morning. Get out there early. Experience things before the game. You won't be sorry.
Sounds good.
That's all for this edition of Thunder Thursdays, but you can stay with the best coverage team every day at News OK and every morning in the Oklahoman. And remember, Thunder Thursdays are sponsored by our good friends at Wheeler Chevrolet. Take that drive down I-40. Save yourself some time and money.